The year was 2050, and humanity had already achieved great things. Earth had united like never before, working together as one global force to advance in science, technology, and exploration. People from different corners of the world shared dreams of a peaceful future. But their world was about to change forever. It began on a bright morning in late spring when Earth's sky darkened with the arrival of an enormous alien fleet. These ships were like nothing Earth's leaders had ever seen before. The vessels were vast, their metallic surfaces reflecting the sunlight in a way that made them seem almost alive. They filled the sky, casting shadows over entire cities below. The sheer size and power of the fleet were overwhelming. News reports started flooding in from all around the world. People rushed to their windows to see the ships hovering above them, unsure whether they should be afraid or in awe. The ships didn't move as if they were preparing to land. They simply floated there, high above, without any clear sign of aggression. The atmosphere was thick with tension. In the United Nations headquarters, world leaders sat in a meeting, faces drawn with concern. Diplomatic talks had always been the answer when dealing with new civilizations. At least, that's what they had believed. But this was different. These were not just visitors from another planet. The ships above Earth were part of something much bigger, something far more dangerous. The emissary from the alien fleet, a towering figure draped in dark robes, transmitted a message to Earth. His voice echoed through every device on the planet. The message was clear. We are the Rixian Empire. We come to claim Earth. Your world is now under our protection, but only if you kneel before us and surrender your power. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your planet. The words sent a shockwave of fear and disbelief across the globe. People froze, unsure how to respond. Was this really happening? An alien empire demanding submission. The Rixian Empire was known throughout the galaxy for its strength and vast influence. They ruled over dozens of planets, crushing civilizations that did not bend to their will. Their technology was far more advanced than anything humanity had ever imagined. If the Rixians had come to Earth, it could only mean one thing. They were preparing to take over. In Washington, D.C., President Sarah Daniels stood in front of a large screen, listening to the message. Behind her, military generals and scientific advisors anxiously waited for her decision. The tension in the room was palpable. No one knew what to do. The world had never faced anything like this before. "Do we really have a choice?" one of the generals asked, his voice shaky with uncertainty. President Daniels took a deep breath and stepped forward. "We will not surrender to them. We will not kneel." The words echoed throughout the room. The entire planet seemed to hold its breath. The Rixian emissary had given them an ultimatum, and now Earth's leaders had made their stand. "We refuse," the president said, her voice calm but firm. "We will not bow to anyone." The room fell silent, but in that silence, something powerful was born. The human spirit, unwavering, resilient, and proud, had made itself known. Earth was not a planet that would kneel to invaders, no matter how powerful they seemed. As the Rixian ships loomed overhead, the people of Earth stood united, their collective will stronger than any weapon the aliens might possess. But what would happen next? No one knew. What had been a peaceful world just hours before was now on the brink of something far darker. The stage was set. The first battle for Earth's survival had begun. The Rixian Empire was about to discover what humanity was truly made of. The world watched in stunned silence as President Sarah Daniels spoke the words that would define humanity's future. "We will not kneel." Her voice echoed across the globe, broadcast through every television screen, radio, and digital device. People in every corner of Earth sat frozen, uncertain whether this was a moment of great courage or reckless defiance. The Rixian Empire had made its demands clear: surrender or face destruction. Earth had chosen defiance. In the United Nations headquarters, the decision was made. Earth's leaders were unified in their resolve. There was no turning back now. General Ada Thompson, the leader of Earth's combined military forces, stood by the president's side. Her face was set in a grim expression, her eyes burning with the fire of someone who had made a choice they would defend with everything they had. "We have one chance to show them we are not afraid," General Thompson said to the president, her voice steady. "The world will rally to this, but we need to act fast. If we don't, the Empire will overwhelm us before we even have time to prepare." President Daniels nodded. "We fight. We defend our home. Humanity has survived many challenges before. This will be no different." As Earth's leaders continued to plan their next move, the people of the world were not passive observers. From the smallest villages to the largest cities, humanity was coming together. In every nation, people shared one thought: they will not kneel. Across the world, protests erupted. People stood tall, waving flags and chanting for unity. Everywhere, voices rang out in one simple cry: "We are not afraid." In the streets of New York, a group of scientists, engineers, and military advisors gathered to discuss their next steps. Elena Marks, one of Earth's brightest minds, had worked for years on a top-secret project designed to enhance Earth's defenses. Now, it seemed that her work might be their last hope. She was quick to work alongside General Thompson, her mind racing through possibilities, trying to figure out how to turn the tide in their favor. But as Elena looked up at the enormous alien fleet hanging in the sky, she knew the odds were grim. Still, the humans were stubborn. They would not give up. "What's the first move?" Elena asked as she met with the military strategists. "We're working on adapting our technology," said General Thompson, tapping her tablet to bring up a holographic map of Earth's defenses. "The Rixians are far more advanced than we are. Their ships could wipe out our cities with a single strike. But we've been using guerrilla tactics to strike back. If we can keep them distracted long enough, we might buy ourselves time to find a weakness." Elena nodded, her mind spinning with calculations. The Rixian ships were powerful, and their weapons were capable of wiping out entire cities. But what the Empire didn't know was that humanity's strength didn't just lie in their weapons. It was in their determination to protect their home. Humans didn't surrender. They fought for what they loved, and that made them unpredictable. Meanwhile, back at the United Nations, President Daniels addressed the world in a speech broadcast live. "Today, we stand together, united in our refusal to be intimidated. The Rixian Empire may have their weapons, their fleets, their might, but they do not have our spirit. They do not have the heart of humanity." Her words echoed across the globe. Earth's people listened, some with fear in their eyes, but many with a deep, unwavering resolve. This was not a time for despair. This was a time for action. In the skies above, the Rixian emissary sent another message. "You have made your choice. You will face the consequences." The message was calm, almost cold, but there was an edge to it. It was the voice of someone who believed victory was inevitable. The Empire had crushed entire civilizations with ease. What was Earth, a small, young planet, to them? But what the emissary didn't understand was that Earth was different. Humans had fought for their freedom throughout history, and they were not about to stop now. The Rixians might have the strength to destroy cities, but they did not understand the strength of the human will. As the day wore on, the tension only grew. Earth's military forces began to prepare for the worst, and civilians everywhere began to organize. They did not know what the coming days would bring, but they knew one thing: they would not surrender. Back in space, the Rixian fleet remained silent, watching. They were waiting for the human response, confident that Earth's leaders would soon realize the futility of their defiance. But what the Empire didn't know was that Earth's refusal was more than a statement. It was a rallying cry. It was a signal to every human, from the richest cities to the most remote villages, that they were not alone. They were united in their stand against the Empire. General Thompson looked up at the sky, a determined look on her face. The battle's only just begun. The stage was set. The Empire might have the power to destroy worlds, But humanity had the strength to fight, and they would not kneel. As days passed, the sky above Earth remained dark, overshadowed by the massive fleet of the Rixian Empire. The ships floated like an eternal cloud, unmoving and menacing. Despite their imposing presence, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. President Sarah Daniels and General Ada Thompson were tirelessly coordinating with leaders from every nation. Their message was clear. They would not surrender. The military had quickly shifted into high gear. It wasn't just about fighting anymore. It was about survival. Earth had no chance of winning a direct confrontation with the Rixian fleet, but they had one powerful advantage. They knew their home better than anyone. The human spirit could not be crushed by fear, and their ingenuity was unmatched. In secret underground bunkers and hidden military bases across the globe, a network of scientists, engineers, and soldiers were working around the clock. Elena Marks, the brilliant scientist who had helped design Earth's advanced defense systems, was one of the key figures in this effort. Alongside her, countless others were focused on one goal: to find a way to stand up to the Rixians. "Elena, we need something to counter their shields," General Thompson said, looking over a series of holographic schematics. "Their defenses are impenetrable. Without something to break through, we'll never stand a chance." Elena didn't need to be told twice. She had been working on a new kind of weapon, a device designed to disrupt the energy fields that powered the Rixian shields. But there were challenges. The technology was unlike anything Earth had ever encountered. It was difficult, and time was running out. The ships above them were not waiting. They were only growing in number. "I'll figure it out," Elena said, determination flashing in her eyes. "I've been studying their technology for months. If there's a way through, we'll find it." While Elena and her team worked tirelessly in their underground lab, the world's military forces were preparing for the inevitable. The Rixians had made it clear that they would destroy Earth if their demands were not met, and humanity was ready to fight for its survival. The United Nations had called for global unity, and it seemed the entire world had answered. Nations that had once been rivals were now allies in a common cause. Across the globe, Earth's military forces began training and strategizing. Fighter jets were upgraded, and new anti-aircraft systems were designed in secret. The idea was simple: delay the Rixian forces long enough to give humanity a fighting chance. Every country, no matter how small, was contributing in some way. It was a time when all differences were put aside. The world stood together as one. In the streets of major cities, people were preparing in their own ways. Some helped with rebuilding efforts, others offered supplies, and many simply gave their support. The air was thick with uncertainty, but there was an undeniable energy. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. Meanwhile, the Rixian fleet remained silent. Their ships hung above Earth, as if waiting for something to break. They had never encountered resistance like this before. Other civilizations had crumbled beneath their power. But Earth was different. It was clear now that the humans were not as easily intimidated as the Empire had hoped. The Rixian emissary sent another transmission to Earth, his cold voice echoing across the planet. "Your resistance is futile. You have made your choice. Prepare for the end." The words were chilling, but President Daniels stood firm. She knew the stakes. Earth had one shot to stand against the Empire, and they would not waste it. The President addressed the world once more, her voice calm but strong. "We will fight for our future. We will fight for our children. We will fight for Earth." Her words resonated across the globe, strengthening the resolve of humanity. It was not just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the very identity of the human race. Earth's people had always faced challenges, and now they faced the greatest one yet. But if there was one thing they had learned over centuries of struggle, it was this: they could endure anything if they stood together. As the days passed, the tension in the air only grew heavier. The Rixian fleet remained motionless, their weapons ready to strike at any moment. But Earth's forces were not standing idle. Elena and her team had made significant progress on the shield-disrupting weapon. The military was preparing its forces for a counterattack, using every resource they could to gain an edge. And then, just when it seemed like Earth was ready for battle, a new message from the Ryxian fleet arrived. This time, it was not an ultimatum. It was a challenge. "We will give you one final chance to surrender." The emissary's voice crackled through the transmission. "Choose wisely." The people of Earth held their breath. This was it, the moment where everything would change. President Daniels stood in front of a global audience, her face resolute. "We have already made our choice, and we will not bow to anyone." The message was clear. Humanity had taken its stand. The battle was about to begin. The day had come. It was the day humanity would either prove its worth or face the full wrath of the Ryxian Empire. The skies above Earth still bore the dark silhouette of the Ryxian fleet, unblinking and menacing. Every country, every nation, and every individual had prepared as best they could. But the question remained, would Earth's defenses be enough? In the control center deep beneath the United Nations building, President Sarah Daniels stood before the enormous screens that displayed the positions of Earth's military forces. General Ava Thompson stood at her side, both women watching with intense focus. The world was about to change forever. "Alina's team has finished their work," General Thompson said, turning to the president. "The new weapons are ready. We can strike." The atmosphere in the control room was thick with tension. Every second felt like an eternity as they waited for the first sign of the Ryxian fleet's movement. The world was holding its breath, hoping that their efforts would be enough to turn the tide in humanity's favor. Then the message came. The Ryxian fleet began to move. Slowly, their massive ships, the size of cities, shifted positions, forming a perfect formation above Earth. They were preparing to strike. The entire world saw the ships in the sky, and a wave of fear rippled through the population. The Empire had made its intentions clear, and humanity was about to face its greatest test. "We can't wait any longer," President Daniels said, her voice firm. "Order the strike." General Thompson gave the command, and across Earth, military forces sprang into action. Fighter jets zoomed into the sky, their engines roaring as they ascended to meet the Ryxian ships. The new weapon designed by Alina and her team, the one that could disrupt the Ryxian shields, was being deployed. As the first wave of jets neared the massive fleet, the world held its breath. Humanity was facing an enemy with technology far superior to its own. But they had one thing the Ryxians did not: the will to fight for their home. The first human missile struck the Ryxian shield, and for a moment, nothing happened. The world's military forces watched in anxious anticipation, but then, a loud crack echoed through the control room. The missile had hit its target. The Ryxian shields flickered. It was a small victory, but it was enough. The Ryxian Empire, so sure of its invincibility, was now vulnerable. The shield had been weakened, and now humanity had a chance to strike. General Thompson's voice came through the radio. "The shields are down. Begin the full assault." All at once, Earth's military forces launched their full-scale offensive. Fighter jets swarmed around the Ryxian ships, firing missiles and energy weapons. Ground forces launched rockets, and space stations fired lasers from above. It was a moment of chaos and fury, a battle unlike anything the world had ever seen. The Ryxians retaliated immediately, their advanced weapons unleashing deadly blasts that tore through Earth's forces. But humanity did not falter. With every strike, they returned 2, 3, 5. The world's military forces fought with a ferocity that was unimaginable. Their homes, their families, their planet, everything was at stake. But there was a glimmer of hope. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Ryxians had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt and fight back. The humans' unconventional tactics, their sheer determination, and their resourcefulness began to show. Alina Marks watched from the underground lab, her fingers hovering over her console as the battle unfolded on the screens before her. The weapon she had helped create was doing its job. With each hit on the Rixian fleet, the shields weakened further. The Rixians had thought their technology was unbeatable, but they hadn't counted on Earth's ability to think outside the box. "We've got this," Elena whispered to herself, more confident than she had been in days. Meanwhile, in the air, General Thompson led Earth's top fighter pilots in a series of aerial maneuvers designed to confuse and disable the Rixian ships. The Rixian Empire, despite its overwhelming power, had never faced an enemy like this, one willing to fight, no matter the cost. "Keep them distracted." General Thompson barked into her comms. "We need to buy time for the final strike." Back in the United Nations control room, President Daniels stood tall. She wasn't just watching a battle unfold. She was watching humanity's future. She knew the stakes. Every decision, every move they made, could determine whether the human race would survive or perish. And then the signal came. The final weapon, the one Elena had designed to disable the heart of the Rixian fleet, was ready. A massive energy pulse, aimed directly at the central command ship, was launched. The world held its breath as the energy beam raced toward its target. The beam struck the heart of the Rixian fleet, and for a moment there was silence. Then a massive explosion rocked the sky, and the Rixian ships began to crumble. The shield systems failed. The massive ships started to fall, one by one, like giant trees being chopped down. It wasn't the end of the battle, but it was a turning point. Humanity had struck a blow against the seemingly unbeatable empire. The Rixians, shocked and reeling from the unexpected resistance, began to retreat. The battle was far from over, but the message had been sent. Earth would not surrender. The battle raged on above Earth, but the tide had changed. The Rixian fleet, which had once seemed so invincible, was now faltering. The sudden vulnerability of their ships had shaken them to their core. Despite their advanced technology, the Empire was struggling to keep up with humanity's unexpected resilience. The unthinkable had happened. Earth had wounded the Empire. In the control room beneath the United Nations, President Sarah Daniels stood, her eyes locked on the large screens. The Rixian fleet, once overwhelming, was now in disarray. Some ships were falling, their energy shields completely disabled. Others were retreating, trying to regroup and escape. "We've got them on the ropes," General Ava Thompson said, her voice filled with disbelief. "But we can't let up now. We need to press the attack while they're vulnerable." President Daniels nodded, her face set with determination. "Give the order for the second wave. We'll strike while they're still reeling." On the ground, the atmosphere was electric. People across the world were watching as the battle unfolded. It was a moment they had all waited for. Humanity had taken a stand, and now they were showing the Empire that Earth was not to be conquered so easily. Fighter jets soared through the sky, their engines roaring as they circled the Rixian ships, launching missiles and energy blasts. Ground forces were launching rockets and using anti-aircraft guns to keep up the pressure. The coordinated effort was massive, a global push to drive the Rixians back. But it wasn't just military forces that were playing a part. Everywhere, people were stepping up. Scientists and engineers had been working tirelessly to develop the technology that allowed Earth to fight back. Civilians were giving their support by volunteering in any way they could. It was a battle fought not just with weapons, but with every ounce of humanity's strength and unity. Meanwhile, in a secure underground lab, Elena Marks and her team continued to monitor the Rixian fleet. The shields had been weakened, but there was still much to be done. The weapon they had created had worked, so far, but they needed to ensure it could be used again if necessary. Elena's mind raced, her focus absolute. "We can't relax," Elena muttered to herself. "We need to be ready for anything." Her fingers danced over the controls, ensuring that the weapon was ready for another round of strikes. The world was counting on her, and she wouldn't let them down. Above Earth, the battle was intensifying. The Rixian ships were trying to regroup, but their movements were sluggish. Their once perfect formations were breaking apart. As the Rixian fleet began to fall back, Some of the ships attempted to retreat into deep space. They were trying to escape the human onslaught, but Earth's forces were not about to let them slip away so easily. A group of Earth's elite pilots led the charge, chasing down the fleeing ships. Their mission was clear: prevent any Rixian ship from escaping to report their failure to the Empire. The pilots moved like a well-oiled machine, weaving through the sky in perfect formation. General Thompson watched the chase unfold, her eyes narrowed with focus. We can't allow them to retreat. If they escape, they'll come back stronger. Finish this now. And so, Earth's forces pushed harder. Fighter jets closed in on the retreating ships, launching their remaining missiles. A loud explosion shook the sky as one of the Rixian ships was hit directly, disintegrating into a cloud of debris. At the same time, the Rixian command ship, the heart of the entire fleet, was surrounded. This was the target that everyone had been waiting for. If they could take it down, it would deal a crippling blow to the Empire's ability to fight back. But the Rixians weren't going down without a fight. The command ship unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, forcing Earth's pilots to dodge and weave to avoid being hit. But humanity had the upper hand. The Rixian shields were failing, and their ships were becoming slower, more vulnerable. The humans had learned quickly, using every bit of their ingenuity to overcome the Empire's advanced technology. Now, General Thompson ordered as the signal came through from Earth's ground forces. All units, focus on the command ship. The final attack began. Fighter jets lined up, locking onto the Rixian command ship. Missiles flew. Energy beams rained down from the space stations, and ground-based rockets joined in the assault. The skies above Earth were alive with the roar of battle as humanity gave its all. Then, with a thunderous crash, the Rixian command ship exploded. The impact sent shockwaves through the remaining fleet, causing chaos among the ships. Without their command center, the Rixians were in disarray. Their once organized forces now struggled to maintain their positions. Some ships began to drift, their systems failing. Others tried to flee, but Earth's military forces were on their tail, refusing to let them escape. In the control room, President Daniels and General Thompson exchanged a look of quiet triumph. The battle was not over, but Earth had struck a decisive blow. "We've done it," President Daniels whispered, her voice filled with awe. The Rixians were retreating. Their massive fleet, once so confident in its ability to conquer Earth, was now broken and disoriented. The world had not only fought back, they had won the first major victory in this war. But the Rixians would not give up so easily. They would regroup, they would plan. The war was far from over. But for now, humanity could breathe. They had sent a message to the Empire: Earth would not kneel. After the fall of the Rixian command ship, Earth's forces found themselves on the edge of victory. The retreating fleet had scattered, their once proud ships now vulnerable. Across the globe, humanity rejoiced. News outlets broadcasted images of the battle, showing Earth's victory and the crumbling Rixian fleet. For the first time in centuries, humanity had struck a powerful blow against an alien empire. But President Sarah Daniels knew the battle wasn't truly over. They had won a major victory, yes, but the Rixians weren't easily defeated. The empire was vast, and this was only one fleet. The war was far from finished. Still, the defeat of the command ship was a turning point. The Rixians had been thrown off balance, their strategic advantage lost. It was a moment of triumph, but only a moment. "We can't let our guard down," President Daniels said as she watched the battle reports on her screen. "We've wounded them, but they'll be back. We need to prepare for the next phase." General Ava Thompson stood beside her, eyes scanning the data coming in. "We need to strike fast while they're disorganized. If we let them regroup, they'll come back even stronger." The world's military forces continued their pursuit, chasing down the last of the retreating ships. Meanwhile, Elena Marks and her team were working around the clock, monitoring the remaining Rixian vessels and ensuring they couldn't escape to regroup. The newly developed weapon had been a game changer. but the scientists knew they had to keep adapting to stay ahead. Back on Earth, citizens were still celebrating their hard-earned victory. In major cities around the world, people gathered in public spaces, watching the battle unfold through massive screens and celebrating their hard-earned freedom. But the celebrations were tempered by the knowledge that this was only a temporary victory. The Rixian Empire would not give up easily. In a hidden Rixian war room, high above Earth, the Empire's leadership was furious. The loss of their fleet was devastating. They had never anticipated that a primitive species like humanity would be able to turn the tide in their favor. Rixian commanders exchanged heated words, but the general consensus was clear. They could not allow the humans to grow bolder. They needed to retaliate, quickly and decisively. "The humans are resilient," said Commander Vrex, his voice low but filled with venom. "But they have only seen a fraction of our power. It's time we show them what the Empire can truly do." His words sent a ripple through the room. The Empire had vast resources, and they had not yet deployed their most powerful weapons. If the humans were to survive this war, they would need to be ready for the next phase, something far more dangerous than the previous attacks. Back on Earth, the military was already preparing for the next challenge. Despite the apparent victory, Earth's forces knew they had to stay vigilant. The sudden appearance of an advanced fleet was still a threat. The war had escalated, and every nation was focused on doing its part. General Thompson's voice crackled over the communication lines, giving orders to the forces in the field. "We can't let up. The Rixians will try to come back with everything they have. Stay focused and be ready for whatever comes next." In space, the pursuit of the retreating Rixian ships was relentless. The fighter pilots, once flying in disarray as they took down the enemy ships, now coordinated with unmatched precision. They knew this moment would define their legacy. They were the ones who had the power to ensure humanity's survival. As they closed in on the last of the Rixian fleet, each pilot pushed their machines to the limit, ensuring not a single ship could escape. The battle for Earth had not been won yet, but it was getting closer. The Rixian ships that had attempted to flee were now isolated, with no chance of retreating. One by one, they fell, their shields depleted, their engines burned out. Earth's forces would not stop until every last one of them was defeated. In the final moments of the battle, the last Rixian ship, a massive war vessel, was cornered. The humans' weapons were overwhelming. The ship's once glowing shields flickered and failed. With a final explosion, the last of the Rixian fleet was destroyed. Earth's forces had succeeded in wiping out the entire invading fleet. But even in victory, there was no time for celebration. The Rixian Empire had suffered a major setback, but President Daniels understood that they were not finished. The message had been sent. Earth was not a world to be conquered. However, she also knew that the Empire would not take defeat lying down. This was only the beginning. "We've won the battle," President Daniels said, her voice filled with both relief and determination. "But we have not won the war. We must prepare for what comes next." As the battle faded into the history books, humanity's true test was just beginning. The Rixian Empire would regroup, and they would return. But Earth had proven something powerful in this moment. The spirit of humanity could not be broken. No matter how fierce the enemy, no matter how impossible the odds, Earth had refused to kneel. After the destruction of the last Rixian fleet, there was a brief moment of peace. Earth's military forces regrouped, their soldiers exhausted but triumphant. They had won the battle, but the threat of the Rixian Empire still loomed large. Everyone knew the war was far from over. President Sarah Daniels stood on the balcony of the White House, staring out at the horizon. It had been a long, difficult few months, and the strain of leading Earth's forces had taken its toll on her. But she wasn't done. Not yet. The Rixians were reeling from their defeat, but they would come back. She knew it was only a matter of time before they struck again, stronger and more dangerous than ever before. "We've given them a reason to fear us," she said to General Ava Thompson, who stood beside her. "But that doesn't mean they won't try again. We need to be ready for whatever they send next. General Thompson nodded, her face hard with determination. The Rixians will regroup. They've lost ships, but they have the resources to rebuild. We need to keep our forces sharp, and we need to be prepared for their next move. The intelligence reports confirmed their fears. The Rixians were indeed rebuilding their forces, and they were sending a message to Earth. The Empire had underestimated humanity once, but that mistake would not happen again. It was clear now that the Rixians were preparing for a final, all-out war. They had no intention of backing down. The Earth Council met in emergency sessions, making plans for the next phase of the war. The world's leaders had agreed on one thing. They couldn't let their guard down. Earth's united front had been a crucial factor in their success so far, and they couldn't afford to lose it now. The people of Earth had shown their strength, and now it was time to show the Rixians that humanity would never surrender. Elena Marks and her team of scientists had worked tirelessly since the last battle. They knew that the weapon they had developed was their greatest asset, but it wouldn't be enough to win the war. They needed to keep innovating, to stay one step ahead of the Rixians. It was time to accelerate their efforts. "We're not just defending Earth anymore," Elena said to her team. "We're preparing for the final battle. We need to make sure that we have every advantage we can find. The Rixians won't hesitate to use their full power, so neither can we." The new technology was a breakthrough, and Earth's forces were rapidly incorporating it into their battle strategies. The weapon had already proven itself in the field, but now Earth's scientists were working on enhancing its power and range. They knew that the Rixians would come back with something even more dangerous, and they had to be ready for whatever was coming. Weeks passed, and the signs of an impending Rixian counterattack grew clearer. Earth's forces were mobilized, and every soldier, every pilot, every scientist was preparing for the fight of their lives. The entire world braced itself for what was coming. Then, one fateful day, the Rixian fleet appeared. It was larger than anything humanity had ever seen. The Empire had brought all their strength to bear, and it was clear they were determined to crush Earth once and for all. On the front lines, the soldiers and pilots of Earth's forces steeled themselves. This would be the moment that would decide the fate of their world. No one knew how the battle would end, but one thing was certain: they were ready to fight, and they would not give in. President Daniels watched the live feeds from the battlefield, her heart pounding. This was it, the final stand. She knew that victory would not come easily, but she believed in the strength of humanity. She believed in their courage, their resilience, and their unwavering determination to protect their home. The battle began with a thunderous roar as the Rixian fleet descended upon Earth's defenses. The sky was filled with explosions, the sound of laser fire and missiles filling the air. It was a war like no other, the fate of an entire world hanging in the balance. Earth's forces held their ground, fighting with everything they had. The weapon that had turned the tide in the previous battle was now fully operational, and it became the key to humanity's survival. The Rixians fought fiercely, but humanity's unity and resourcefulness proved stronger. The weapon tore through their ships, and Earth's pilots executed flawless tactics, pushing back the invaders with precision and strength. The Rixians couldn't believe what was happening. They had underestimated Earth once again. As the battle raged on, President Daniels and General Thompson watched with pride. They knew that this was a fight for humanity's future, and they couldn't allow the Rixians to win. This was their world, and they would fight to the end to keep it. In the final moments of the battle, the Rixian fleet began to break apart. Their ships were falling, one by one, as Earth's forces held their ground. The Empire had overestimated their power, and humanity had proven that they were not to be trifled with. The Rixian retreat began, and with it, Earth's victory was sealed. The final stand had been won, not just by weapons or technology, but by the spirit of humanity. Earth had proven, without a doubt, that they would never kneel. No matter how powerful the enemy, no matter how impossible the odds, humanity would always rise up, fight back, and protect their home. As the last Rixian ships retreated into the stars, Earth's forces stood victorious. The battle was over, and the war had been won. Humanity had shown that they were not just survivors. They were warriors. And from that day forward, Earth's place in the galaxy would never be the same. The Rixian Empire knew now that Earth was not to be underestimated, and humanity's legacy was forever etched into the stars.